Bertrand Jamuto, and I'm going to be presenting a basic Linux lab. And in this basic Linux lab, I will launch an EC2 instance in the US West 1 region using the AWS Management Console. We are already on the console here. And I will connect to the EC2 instance through SSH using the PuTTY client after converting the .pem key pair to .ppk format. And the reason we would be converting the .pem key pair to .ppk format is because the PuTTY SSH client does not support the .pem key pair format. And on the EC2 instance, I'm going to install the Apache web server and other dependencies like the Lynx text browser. I will create a simple HTML file on and host it on the Apache server to test if it works. I will open port 80 for HTTP traffic in the EC2 security group to allow internet access to the web server. Next, I'll create an EBS volume in the same availability zone as the EC2 instance. Then I'll attach the EBS volume to the EC2 instance, create a file system on it, and mount it. I will configure the Apache web server to use the mounted EBS volume as the new web root instead of the default /var/www/html directory. After verifying the new web root works, I will stop the Apache service and unmount the EBS volume. Finally, I will detach the EBS volume from the EC2 instance and terminate the EC2 instance to clean up resources. So right away, I'll start by launching an EC2 instance in the US West 1 region. Call it Linux instance. Okay, so I'm going to select a pre-made key pair because of time constraints, and I'm going to uh allow SSH from my IP and launch my instance. So the instance is currently in a pending state, and I'll resume the recording when the EC2 instance is in the running state. So our EC2 instance is in the running state, and I'm going to connect to it using its public DNS. So I'm going to go to PuTTY. Since I've already converted the key from .ppk .pem to .ppk, I'm going to use PuTTY right away and SSH into our EC2 instance. I'm going to choose the already converted key pair and open, accept. So I'm logged in as the EC2 user in our EC2 instance. So at this stage, I'm going to be installing some dependencies on the instance. I will be installing the Apache web server on our instance because it enables us to deploy our website or web applications. Additionally, um, Apache Web Server helps our EC2 instance to handle HTTP requests from users' browsers and responding with appropriate content. Apache equally helps us to scale horizontally to handle increased traffic by perhaps adding more EC2 instances to a load balancer or virtually upgrading resources like the memory or CPU. And Apache Web Server also helps us to create additional configuration and customizations on our EC2 instance. So I'll run a sudo yum update. Okay, sudo yum install -y httpd. Our Apache web server is installed and we need to start it with a sudo system ctl start httpd, and we're going to enable it. Okay, so our Apache web server has been set to start at boot time. So I'm going to install the Linux text browser, sudo yum install -y links, and we're going to test if it opens the default Apache HTTP server page. Links HTTP localhost. No. Okay, so we are able to connect, and I'm going to exit. At this stage, I'm going to add content to our Apache web server, and by default, our Apache stores web content in the /var/www directory. And to allow the EC2 user to manage files in the default root directory for our Apache server, we need to modify the ownership and permissions of the /var/www directory. I will add the group www to my EC2 instance and add the EC2 user as a member of that group. Then I'm going to exit this EC2 instance and then log back into the instance using its public DNS name. After that, I'll give that group ownership of the /var/www directory and add write permissions for the group. Any members of that group can then add, delete, and modify files for the web server. So I'll pause the recording for now and I'll run all these commands. So I'm going to change my directory to the /var/www/html, where I'm going to create a simple HTML document. Nano index.html. Okay, and I'm going to copy my custom HTML document. Control O to save, enter, Control X to exit. Now I'm going to run my links browser. Links HTTP local host. Okay, so welcome to my website. This is a simple HTML document. My name is Petran Jamuto, and this is Silver Lining 2024 cohort. So this works, and I'm going to exit this. So right now, I'm going to configure the network, and what I'm going to do is on the console, I'm going to open port 80 on the web server so that you can access it from the internet. And I'm going to go to the security group and simply change add a rule to allow HTTP traffic on port 80 from my IP address. I'll pause the video at this level. Okay, so I have changed the security group rules, and I'm going to test if the web server is properly installed and started. So I'm just going to copy the public IPv4 DNS and paste on my browser. Okay, so this works. It is properly configured. Now, in the next step, I'm going to be adding storage to the web server. And to do this, I'm going to go to the EBS, to the EC2 console, and I'll create an EBS volume. That is an elastic block store, and attach it to the EC2 instance. An EBS volume provides scalable and high performance block storage for our EC2 instance. They are essentially virtual hard drives that you can attach your instances, providing persistent storage for your data. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to go to my EC2 instance and create an EBS volume in the same availability zone as my EC2 instance and attach it to my EC2 instance. So this is my newly created EBS volume, and I'm going to attach it to my EC2 instance. Attach volume to EC2 instance. Going to select a random device. Attached to EC2 instance. Now, when you attach the EBS volume to your EC2 instance, it is initially a raw block storage device without any file system. And to make this volume usable by the operating system and the applications, you need to perform a few essential steps: formatting the volume, creating a mount point, and mounting the volume. So that is what I'm going to do in the next series of steps. And I'm going to pause the video for now. So I'll run a series of commands to uh, format the volume. To create a mount point, and to mount the volume. Now, after this is done, I need to create to mount it on reboot. And the mount point we created in the previous step is not preserved after rebooting the EC2 instance. And so for us to do so, we need to add an entry for the device to the slash etc slash fs fstab file. And this file contains all the disks and partitions and describes how they should be initialized into the file system. So I'm going to copy and run this, and BLKID. Okay, so this returns our UUID, and I need to copy this and save somewhere. Um, copy and save this here. Now I'll add my UUID into this portion where Control O, enter, Control X. At this stage, I'm going to be moving the web root, and the web root is the root directory where the web server stores its documents. This is the directory from which the web server serves all its files. By default, the Apache on many Linux distributions is directories is the /var/ww/html. So what we are going to do is to enter the web root, and we are going to change that to the data.html directory. I'll do it offline since time constraints. So I'll go to the document root and change to document root and change the file directory to HTML. The data slash HTML we created earlier. Do same up here. Control O, enter, Control X. So at this stage, we are going to test if the Apache server is actually configured to use the new location for its web root or its document root directory. And to do that, we are going to remove the index.html file which we initially created using this command. And now we are supposed to refresh this. Okay, we are no longer seeing our index.html our simple web page which we initially created. And if we refresh this after some time, we should find that it works afresh. So let me refresh. Okay, and after refreshing, we see that our we are now able to access our web server. And this brings to an end to our lab, and I'm simply going to move on to the console, and I'm going to detach this EBS volume. detach volume, and then I'm going to stop the EC2 instance. Or I can simply run this command systemctl stop the Apache service, and I'm going to unmount. I'm going to stop the EC2 instance. Terminate EC2 instance. Shutting down and our volumes. I'm going to delete this volume. And this brings an end to our basic Linux lab.